Welcome to The Wyrd Way, a podcast about magic, folklore, healing, and everything in between. I'm your host, Sharon Ruderman, and your guide if you choose to follow The Wyrd Way. Welcome back to another episode of The Wyrd Way. This month we are getting into some interesting parts of the year. We're going to talk about we're going to talk about the messages for December. We'll get into your tarot reading, your tarot guides for the month, and I think you'll find this one very helpful. So, let's get into it. So if you haven't heard, this year I opened up my own digital studio called Video Magic. And if you're a small business owner, service-based business, or a fellow magic maker, then I want to help you get the video content you've been dreaming of. And I want to do it all within your budget. So for those of you who don't know, my name is Sharon, and for the past 17 years, I've been making and editing videos for all of your favorite brands like The Today Show, BuzzFeed, Cosmo, and even the WWE. That's right. And I even won a couple awards for my editing work. And now I want to use my video magic powers for good by giving you some of your precious time back and helping you to fill in your content calendars by ensuring that your ad campaigns are full of high quality professional videos and that they also match your style and branding. And because I'm a video witch, everything I do and create will be naturally imbued with a little bit of magic to ensure that your story, your brand, and your product stands out from the crowd. So stop wasting time and money on those other branding agencies who don't even get your style or your humor. When you work with me, you get one-on-one attention, plus all my 17 years of experience and high-quality content that was created just for you. So if you're ready to learn more and figure out if video magic is right for you and your brand, then go to video-magic, magick.com. That's video-magic, and click the book a free call button. It's right on the homepage. Hi, and welcome to your December episode of The Wyrd Way. This month, the channeled message is tending to the hearth. Or I guess another way you could say it is tending to your inner fire. How to keep the fire going. This is actually a concept I recently taught. In the end, it's the last part of teaching the morning ritual. But here I think it's a little bit different. In that case, I'm teaching how to sort of keep your habits going, how to keep your new habits going, how to keep your daily practice going. And I think what's happening this month with everybody is more like, I think there's a possibility for burnout. We're heading into the colder months. I mean, here in Santa Fe, we had like a big giant snow come in yesterday, and it was just kind of nice because some of my obligations got, they went away, and I was able to work on some video stuff that I had been meaning to work on, and it just felt really nice and cozy to be inside because of the snow, because of the weather. And I think that is sort of the idea behind the message for this month is how can we create these snow day moments that, allow for you to rest, rejuvenate, replenish. This last week, I'm recording this on December 1st on Friday. So this last week has felt wildly just like crazy. Like I had a bunch of people over this weekend and through the holiday week, and So when I got back to doing my business on Monday during that like wildly talkative full moon, it felt like I had literally just like plugged myself into the matrix, and I was having a lot of trouble unplugging. Like I got very like what uh you know the ADD world calls like hyper focused, and so much so that like I like injured my shoulder from like sitting on the couch weird and like not taking breaks. And I know that it's a very simple concept, but it's a concept that I have been teaching to people for like since I've been when I started teaching yoga back in, oh geez, I don't even know, 2007, 2008. I have no idea. Maybe it was 2011. Anyway, it was a while ago, and I used to teach this class called Stretch and Restore. So it was Sunday nights at the Bhakti Center, and people could, they would come in around 5 p.m. and we would do a little bit of stretching, we would do a little bit of breathing, and then we would, oh, my cat, she wants to join the convo. And we would do some restorative poses, like one or two, or, it depended on my mood for the week. And I used to joke around that people would come to my class so that they could rest, so that they could get permission to rest. And if, New Yorkers are especially guilty of working their faces off until they burn out. And I think that the new paradigm over the last few years, like none of this is new concepts. None of it is, that you need to take breaks. It is inevitable that if you do not take breaks, you will break in some way. You will get sick, you will burn out, you will get like some kind of, for me, I'll get like a chronic illness flare up. Sometimes it doesn't happen until I finally am finding myself on like a vacation or a rest. I think that happens to a lot of people. They get sick when they finally go on vacation. And so the challenge this month, I think, is how to build these breaks into your day, into your week, into your month, so that, you put them on your calendar, you block off time, you really make sure that you are not working yourself to the bone for no reason. Because honestly, at the end of the day, we're going to work better when we're feeling better. We're going to create better when we are having all of our parts working together at optimal levels. And that just can't happen when you don't have rest. Yeah, so tending to the hearth, I think that also can lead to, besides just resting, I think that there's a message there around like home life. Tending to, the hearth was always thought of as the main center of the home, the fireplace where you would cook, where you would gather. It would heat the home, and it's sort of, that time of year where to make sure that the hearth is healthy, to make sure that, it reminds me a lot of, I don't know why, but it's bringing to mind like ideas of fire scrying. So I think that there's sort of like a vibe that you can sit around the hearth or the fire pit or the proverbial Yule log and zone out, let the imagination run wild. Let the imagery show up for you. let the fire speak to you in some way. We are in Sagittarius season. It's a fire season. It could, it could be kind of an exciting season. You could, Sages are known for, their love of travel, their love of wisdom, and sharing that wisdom, whether you want to hear it or not. I think that Sagittarians are often, sometimes they could be like the life of the party. They're the opposite of Gemini, who are definitely, you could bring them anywhere. But then the Sag is the one that's always like holding court, so to speak. But yeah, I think that this is a time period to really check in with your inner supplies. Like, if you are running a business or whatever, you at the end of the year will go through, how much money you made, how much money you spent, like what supplies do you need again, what this and that, and I think that is also good to do for your body, for your mental health, your emotional health. How can you make sure that your, levels are intact? And if they aren't, if you find that, you're running low on your social meter, or you're running low on your creativity well, or you're running low on just energy, how can you replenish? How can you sit by the fire and just let it warm you and heal you and show you the way forward? So I think that this month is a lot to do with not necessarily like just resting, but ensuring that there are periods of replenishment, especially for 2024, for going forward, so that we don't burn out, so that we can be helping and creating and sharing at, our highest possible level. So let's pull some cards. Let's see what the cards have to say to help us this month. And by the way, if you're into this like free monthly tarot reading, if you don't subscribe to my newsletter, you probably would love to, because you would get another free tarot reading every month. It's a little bit different. It's like a pick a card situation. So you just click the link, you read you think of your question for the month or the subject that I'm talking about in the blog post, and you get another free insight. So just letting you know, it's all out there. I always put the newsletter sign up in my in the show notes. So I think it's definitely probably where I'm going to be sharing more and more of my stuff, rather than on the Instas and what have you. Okay. I feel like something's popping out. Okay, so our first card, the invitation, sort of like what can help us around this idea of tending to the hearth, tending to our inner fires, is the Queen of Wands. So that speaks to magic, of course, ritual, spirituality, what have you. So how can you rely on your practices, your rituals this month and beyond? Or how could you start new ones that become an anchor for you? The Queen of Wands, whenever I pull this card in a reading, I know that I'm talking to another witch or spiritual worker. And also it's a reminder of intuition, and very, very powerful intuition. It's the Queen of Wands is water and fire. These things do not go together except through magic, through alchemical reactions. And so when I feel like the Queen of Wands is speaking to me, that intuitive hits, so to speak, those messages come in with like powerful urges to do something, like breath work, for example, or spell work that I'm thinking about. Those are usually coming from like a Queen of Wands sort of guide. And so this month, the Queen of Wands is inviting us all into finding what our magic is and how can it aid us into living a more balanced life. Oh, it just started hailing. The next card, such weird weather lately, is the 10 of Pentacles. So the 10 of Pentacles is a reminder to also take stock right now. It is like I was saying before, it's a time period of taking stock, of seeing what you created this year, to see what you, how much money you made, what did you learn, what is abundant from all of your hard work. What can you put on your gratitude list? What eggs have you collected? Magical eggs have you collected this year? What ideas have you gotten this year that you've journaled about, but weren't ready to bring forth, and maybe they're going to come next year? It's a time of taking stock and looking at your harvest and saying, wow, I was busy and I did a really great job. Or, wow, things were tough this year, but I still accomplished this, and this. It's a time to congratulate yourself on doing the hard work of showing up, of making change, of living this life as best as you can to learn and change and evolve, and to say, hey, I did a really good job and look at all this that I have to show for it. For example, as many of you might know, I've fully launched a business that I've been talking about for years, and it just came together this year, and it was really hard, and some of it was really easy, and some of it just flowed, and some of it was a struggle. And right now at the end of the year, I'm haven't done it yet because I have a little bit of resistance to it, like we all have for certain things, but I haven't sat down and really looked at, what did I make? How much did I earn? What new clients did reach out to me, and what old ones can I, reconnect with? But more importantly, how can I sort of be my own cheerleader by listing all the really great, amazing, awesome things that I gained from doing all this hard work. For example, one of them is working in a more sustainable fashion, where I don't have to do, every once in a while I might do things like on a Monday where I work crazy and get a lot of stuff done, but I don't have to do that all the time, and I don't have to do it to the point of burnout. And I just did it because it naturally was an inspiration on Monday and this week. And I'm going to go into a little bit of traveling next week, and I'm not going to have, the time to do it. And so it's all about balance and figuring it out. And without, and I can only do that right now because I don't really work for anybody else right now. And that's part of my goal, to continue to work for myself. So who is our guide? Who could help us remember these ideas about abundance and rest and tending to the hearth? It's the Eight of Cups. So with this kind of growth, with any kind of growth, there is also grief on the other side of it. It's the both and, right? It's the double-sided coin of life, so to speak. So with the Eight of Cups as our guide, I think that it's urging us to continue to release, continue what we were talking about last month a bit, and even more so now, to continue to grieve the things that need to be grieved, because there is a big shift. This whole year was a Chariot year. I'm sure for everybody in some way, in some area of your life, you have felt a big change, a big moving on from something that you put a lot of love and hard work in. For me, it was in my career. It was saying that I'm no longer Sharon, the video editor who works for, NBC or BuzzFeed or Cosmo. Like, I don't work for those big companies anymore. I'm saying no to corporate media because it no longer aligns with me. And it got me to a certain place, and I can no longer ride that chariot into the future, because it's over and it no longer fits. And with that came a lot of ego death, and came a lot of excitement, but also grief for that person who worked really hard to get where I am today. None of it was easy. It's a very hard industry to be in, and you have to really want it. And I did. I really wanted it. But underneath it all, I always wanted this. I always wanted to be my own boss. I freelanced for most of my career. And so I am freelancing still a little here and there, because I'm not going to lie, you can't, one does not just, one does not just become a business owner. It takes work. It takes gradual and, building. And we can't just, all be like Athena and arrive fully formed. So of course I'm doing freelance work, and I'm doing some side hustles along with it. But all of that it's for my company, Video Magic. It's for Wild Women Healers. It's so I can create this podcast. And I could never have done it if I was working full time still. And so like Ram Dass always says, like I probably have said a few times on this podcast, is that there is grief for who we used to be. And that's okay. I think that that's natural, and it's needed to make the space for something new. And it, especially when changes like getting laid off or getting, broken up with, or, it feels like maybe these weren't our personal choices, that you must allow for anger and for sadness, because that's human. And so there is a mourning period. And I think if that is our guide for the month, then perhaps the answer is, when these emotions arrive, sit with them, talk with them, be curious about them, ask them questions like, hey, what are you so sad about? What are you worried about? What do you need in this moment? And how can I, as the Queen of Wands, the all-powerful witch, offer you healing, right? And this is all a conversation you're having with yourself, by the way. Or a friend, whatever. You should treat yourself like a friend. You should treat your sad parts and your happy parts all the same, and offer them some kind of, love or energy healing. Or even if you're just making it up, it's all really happening. And so, yeah, those are our guides and our messages, they all really, to me, make a lot of sense. But while I was shuffling, these sort of darker characters came forward. The Hanged One and the Nine of Swords. So I think that there can be a reminder that there is anticipation, right? Like there's the new year, the new me, blah, blah, blah. You know, and none of that's really that true. It's only true if you choose to make changes, right? My friend who was just visiting, she was talking about doing like a dry January. It's a pretty common thing to do in January. I was talking about doing like a elimination diet thing to like, you know, try to figure out what I'm allergic to. And all these things are like, you know, January here is like a pretty easy month to do those because the whole world is sort of resetting. But what's hard is to pull those things through into your new life, right? Like it doesn't just change because the so-called calendar has changed. And many of you might not even recognize this time period as the new year. You might have recognized it back in October at the end of the month. Like I always recognize it in October around my birthday because that's my personal new year. But yeah, it's about allowing yourself some grace and some patience. And when the Nine of Swords style rumination and worry and anxiety come up, what are your words that you'll share with yourself? What are your breathing techniques that you'll offer? What is your magic that you can offer your brain to time out, replenish, calm? Because we do not we don't have to work like that anymore. We don't have to work like we're little robots connected to this battery. Like you know, it's not healthy. And it's not sustainable. And to be motivated by worry and fear is not a way to live. To be patient and hang out in the discomfort is a way forward into creating change and creating these new perspectives about who you are and who you want to be. Underneath it all, it's really ridiculous, but it's the Chariot. That's the card that's at the bottom of the deck. And I'm not making this shit up. Like sometimes I just am like, I really love doing these card pulls for y'all because it is so spot on. Sometimes it's just like even too literal. Like I'm like, okay. Anyway, we all know, but if you didn't know, we're in a Chariot year, 2023. And we're moving into a Strength year, which I'll go into in a second, a little bit. So this whole year, because it's ruled by the Chariot, which is all about movement. It's all about, as Lindsay Mack says, sacred graduation. And it's all about figuring out a new way of being in the world. The old way can only take you so far. The vehicle that you're using for whatever, you know, it doesn't have to be every aspect of your life. For me, like I was saying, it was around my career. And it happened at the very beginning of the year. It was so ridiculously literal. I got laid off for the second time in my career. It was actually like two bookends happening. And I just said, okay, I hear you. I am picking up what you're putting down. And it's time for me to let that career go, to let that part of my career go, and to start building the thing that I've been dreaming about now. Now is the time. And so I'm graduating from being a cog in the machine, so to speak, to owning my own business, which I've owned and ran multiple businesses as a side hustle for a very long time, so it wasn't like a foreign concept to me. But I have never fully said that I'm going to jump into the waters of like I formed an LLC. I am claiming it rather than just sort of alluding to it. And so anyway, so that is actually what the strength card is also all about, is stepping forward, even though we might be feeling rather vulnerable and scared, stepping forward towards that thing that we really want but scares the shit out of us, stepping forward and recommitting to it over and over and over again. So this year, 2024, is going to ask us throughout, are you sure? Do you really want this? And through your strength of heart, you must continue to say yes if you do want the thing. And so I'll give you, one of my favorite examples of the strength card is a couple of years ago when I was moving to Santa Fe. I noticed through conversations with a therapist and friends that I wasn't really committing to the idea of moving. I kept saying, I want to move. I am thinking about moving. And then my therapist at the time, he said, well, aren't you or aren't you? Like, which is it? Because you aren't really committing to it. And I think that is partially why it's not like really taking hold, right? And there have been many moments in my life where I've realized that I was just being a little like Libra-y, wishy-washy around the subject. And when you aren't really fully committed to something, it's hard to really bring that forward. So we see that a lot in spell work, right? So that is actually how then I worked with this commitment issue, was to recommit to it every single day, right? And it's the same in anything, right? Like if you want to build a new habit, if you're in a new relationship or even a marriage, you must wake up and say yes to it every day. You can't just say yes to it once. You must say yes all the time. When it gets challenging, you choose to say yes. When it gets easy, you choose to say yes. When it gets mundane, you choose to say yes. I'm still here and fully committed to this thing. Even though saying yes to it absolutely scares me. That's really what the strength card is in like in a nutshell. Actually, if you want more in-depth knowledge around it, I am offering the same offering I do every year, but new for the new year, the year ahead spread, which will go into, each one will include an exclusive summary of how to work with the strength card this year and how to work with it throughout the year, as well as your 13 cards for 2024. So a card for each month and your guide for the year. And so it's a really cool offering. It's live now on wildwomenhealers.com. It's in the Wild Women Healers link tree on Instagram. And I will also drop it in the show notes for y'all if you're interested. And I think I already did drop it on YouTube on like my community page or whatever it's called. But anyway, if you're looking for some guidance for the next year, I think it's a really cool offering. I'm not just saying that because I make it. It's a PDF, like you'll get it in your email once you order it. It takes about 2 weeks or so. I think it's something that I do for myself every year, and I find it very helpful to check back. In fact, since today's the 1st, I should check on what my card is for this month. That'd be really funny if it was the Queen of Wands. Anyway, so at the bottom of the deck, most literally, this is all having to do with, what have you learned this year? What are you not taking with you into 2024? Do you need to grieve that a little bit? What fears and impatience are coming up, and how can you offer those parts of yourself some love, some like beaming Reiki love onto those parts, and how can you allow these moments of rest, and not just rest but replenishment, to make sure that your fire doesn't go out, to make sure that your hearth stays burning brightly and warmly throughout this season, because this season can be exhausting. It's it's not just like the holidays, but it's the cold. It's the gray. It's the pressure of spending money and socializing, and all of these things are good and great, but they can also be like pressure. When I was younger, up until like I'd say 3 or so years ago, I was probably one of like I would describe myself as like a Grinch. I had a Grinchy little heart when it came to Christmas. It was just because that's the way I grew up. I had a lot of anxiety and pressure around Christmas, and not just like through my family, but of course, through society saying you have to get all these people presents. And I hate that, because I love buying presents for people, but I hated being forced to do it and to get everybody a present and blah blah blah. But then also growing up, there was always like, because it come from divorce, there was always like an issue of like, whose house was I going to go to, when I got older and I was driving, then it was I would drive all around like Long Island going to different houses, and it was like so much work. And the only time that I actually was like finally happy was at the end of the day, when me and my sister would go out and like get like 1 or 2, or probably at the time quite a lot of like some pints at the bar around the corner from where I lived in Brooklyn at the time. And yeah, so Christmas just always felt like this pressurized bullshit. And, sorry for anybody who loves Christmas. Like, you're probably not really those people aren't really listening to this podcast. But anyway, it's nothing against you. It's just that's what my experience was that it was a season and a weekend filled with so much work and strife and pressure. And then when COVID happened, it took the pressure off. Suddenly I wasn't able to visit people, and we all had to stay in. And I was like, wow, this is the easiest holiday season ever. I could just FaceTime everybody. And, that was really great to some extent. But what it taught me, and what I have started to do, is to, turn back towards some of the old ways, to celebrate Yule rather than Christmas. And for me, maybe it's not for everybody, but for me, that feels so much better. Like you're celebrating nature, you're celebrating the light returning, you're celebrating this wintry time period of a little bit of hibernation and magic and inner world exploration. I kind of love January, where everybody's just a little bit more inward and contemplative. Because I got laid off in January, I spent a lot of this January like very just looking out at the snow from my couch. And I actually look back at that time period, even though it was like very unknown. I was very excited. it was a lot of mixed emotion. I was also like very angry. But that January, just like kind of letting my imagination run wild, while looking outside and not feeling pressure to go out, It was really helpful, and it was kind of like a magical, like, little incubation period. And I think that that's what really this time of the year is. It's cold, it's icy. While it's fun to go out there and do like some snowy stuff, of course, it's also, I don't know, it's kind of nice to just have the pressure off and to be at home. Yeah, so anyway, I don't remember where I was going with that tangent. But yeah, I think that's all I got. This is the end of the road for the Chariot. We're heading into strength, and yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of like fiery passion next year. You know, a little bit of showboating because it is related to Leo, but overall, it's going to be a year to really, I think, commit to some of the values, qualities of character, the things that we really believe in. You know, you got to fight for them, and you got to commit to them. And yeah, I think 2024 is going to be interesting. But I also hope that it's going to be easier in some aspects, but we'll see. But the best way to do that, to ensure some ease, is to also ensure some rest and replenishment. So I hope that your Decembers are easeful and chill and have no weird anxiety pressures put upon them. But if they are, you know what to do. You know how to handle it and to call on your inner witch to help yourself through it. So, oh, I am super excited. I'm so excited for the storytelling episode this month because I have decided that it's going to be all about Christmas monsters. I love Christmas monsters. So, don't forget to tune back in for that. Until then, keep it weird, y'all. You have been listening to The Wyrd Way, recorded, edited, and produced by Sharon Ruderman and Video Magic.